Welcome back to the Gear Shed. I'm Trevor, and today we're going to be talking about paddles in this episode, specifically the Sawyer Canyon X paddle. I wanted to give you guys a pretty thorough review of the Sawyer Canyon X, so we decided to kind of put it through its paces, put it through a lot of stuff, and gave it to multiple people to see what their reactions were and how they felt. And we were pretty impressed. Everybody seemed to enjoy the paddle in one way or another. It's a good looking paddle. The shaft is made out of a laminated ash and fir, while the blade is a walnut and cedar. So it's a good looking paddle. I really like it. Turned some heads. Everybody's like, oh, what kind of paddle is that? So, that's kind of cool. It sticks out a bit. Also, one of the features that this paddle has is it's got this carbon fiber reinforcement here on the blade and around the tip. And then it has this black rim called Dynel ToughEdge. And, I see it on websites. Every company says, oh, this is great material. And I was like, what the hell is Dynel ToughEdge? And what does it do? And does it work? Ultimately as boaters, that's what we want to know. Does this thing work? I did some research on Dynel to understand what it is, and it's a marine fabric. It's a polymer similar to PVC. It's typically laminated together with other sorts of things. In this case, it's laminated into the black edge on this paddle. Like I said, how does it work? Is it tough enough? Is it going to stand up? And I find that this paddle will hold up pretty well to commercial use. Creek boating, it's not really the best. Not that the performance is bad, it's just we keep chewing up the edge here. Typical for creek boaters, when you run low stuff, you're always going to hit rocks. The other problem is that this edge doesn't provide much purchase. Plastic paddle or like some sort of Kevlar laminated paddle is going to provide some grip on a rock if you're trying to scrape across and pull across a rock. I certainly don't prefer that lack of purchase, and I feel like the Dynel ToughEdge keeps getting ground down quite a bit. This is something that Sawyer did fix in their Freefall XD paddle, which I also have and I really enjoy. They put this pro tip on it, as they call it, and it's kind of an overmold that's put over the top of the tip. Really helps with grip, get a lot of grip on rocks, and it doesn't bash the edge up as much. But if you're going to be using this on, say, big water, or you're going to be using it in just a fuller river, I think you're going to have no problem with it. You'll be really happy with it. All right, so how does it feel in your hand and on the water? First thing, T-grip. Some T-grips are way too small for my hands. I got big hands. This T-grip just feels perfect in my hand. The curve of it and the general shape, spot on. Sawyer nailed it with that. A lot of other T-grips are kind of blocky or they just feel a little weird. They're a little oblong, but like I said, Sawyer nailed it with this. Kaylee has smaller hands. She really enjoyed the T-grip, and some other boaters who are small like Kaylee also said that the T-grip was really good size for them. The next point is the midsection grip. For me, I feel like this is just about right. Maybe a little on the large side, but it feels right. It feels good in my hand. Kaylee has trouble with it, and other paddlers her size, they also have a bit of trouble with it because it's just a little large, larger than a lot of other paddles on the market. And Sawyer's Freefall XD is probably a little bit better in that department. It's a little smaller. Right around the grip area, Sawyer put these kind of like molded ridges in here on the laminate on the outside. It's okay, but it's just not enough, especially when my hands are cold. It's just a little tougher to get a good grip on. Blade size is good. It's 8.5 by 21, exactly the same as, say, a Warner paddle or a lot of the other river booty paddles you're going to find. This blade is just great, though. It's a little blockier than other paddles, so you have a little bit more blade to work with. I really like that. I really like how it feels in the water. It just has a good bite. You get some good purchase on it, and you can really move a boat with it. So I enjoy that aspect of it. A lot of other people have echoed the same sort of thing about it. It's a great little bonus there. I always think a lot of comparisons because I try and think of what I have used before and how it compares, what I'm used to and what I like. So the biggest comparison I have to have out there is, of course, the Warner guide stick. A lot of guides use it. I've used it quite a bit. I'm not too big of a fan of the Warner guide stick just because of the way it feels. It feels a little plasticky to me. Personal preference on the feel there. Different people are going to feel different ways. It's funny, a lot of people say that this paddle is a heavier paddle, and in fact the paddle weighs exactly the same as a Warner guide stick. So you know, from a weight standpoint, there's no difference. From a power standpoint, I definitely feel a different way. It feels like the curve of how the power goes with this paddle is a little bit different, and I'll try to explain. When you take a paddle stroke with a Warner guide stick, it flexes a lot. So there's a lot of flex in that paddle, and as you push forward, the paddle just moves in your hand quite a bit. So Warner's paddles seem to have this wind up and snap to it. And I never really like that because there are times, especially when I'm creek boating, that I can only take a half stroke, and that's all I get. So that wind up, you know, you only get about 25%, 30% it feels like, and then you have nothing after that if you can't make the paddle stroke. With a Warner guide stick, it feels like when you make the paddle stroke, it winds up, winds up, winds up, and after the paddle passes your body, then you get that snap back with the rest of the purchase and the rest of the force. I certainly don't feel that with the Sawyer Canyon X. In fact, it feels like it's got a pretty consistent ramp up. I don't feel like this paddle has a lot of flex. So if you're used to a flexi paddle and you like a flexi paddle, you might not feel at home on this paddle. You might not enjoy it. It's just kind of the nature of the material and the paddle and how it works. I think if you're doing a lot of creek boating, you might enjoy a paddle like this simply because you get a more consistent amount of power. If you only get a half stroke, it feels like you get 50% rather than getting 30%. Just how I felt about it, and some other boaters have expressed a similar feel to it. One of the other little downsides to it is that the price point is a little bit higher than comparable guide sticks. So with the Canyon X, it's a little bit more affordable than, say, their Freefall XD, but it's still going to cost you a bit more than, say, a Warner guide stick in the end. It's not much. It's, you know, $20, $30. The last important consideration is what size paddle should you buy. I'm going to put a link down to our paddle sizing guide and also our basic paddle selection article, as well as a longer review of this that you can read on Rafting magazine. So you'll see those 3 links in there. But for me, paddle size, I usually have a 64-inch paddle. According to the sizing guide, of course. Kaylee will paddle typically a 60-inch paddle. I am 6'2", and she's 5'4". So this paddle we have here is a 60-inch paddle. Kaylee said it was a little short for her. She would have preferred the 64. And for me, 64 was about right. I maybe could have used maybe 2 inches on it. And the good thing is that the paddle comes in multiple sizes and 2-inch increments over quite a bit. So those are all your paddle sizes, and that's kind of our rundown on this paddle. So I hope you found this helpful. If you have questions, please put those in the comments. Happy to talk to you more about it and give you some more recommendations on paddles and give you some more feedback. So thanks for joining us on the Gear Shed, and we'll see you next time.